For this video, we'll be using pink, white, black, and yellow yarn, a 4.5mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a darning needle, stitch markers, fabric glue, yellow and black felt for the eyes and nose, or you can crochet your own eyes and nose. For the stitches, we'll be using a single crochet, double crochet, increase, invisible decrease, slip stitch, chain stitch, and magic circle. Now we're going to make the hands and arms. We're going to start with the magic circle. And inside our magic circle, we're going to do 6 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to pull our tail. Let's start with our next row. For our next row, we're going to do an increase in each stitch. So we should have a total of 6 increases. There's our first single crochet. And we're going to put a stitch marker. And there's our second for that increase. And then we're just going to keep making these increases in each of these stitches. And here we should have a total of 12 single crochets around. I'm going to pull on this tail a little bit more to close that hole. And we're ready to move on to our next row. Next, we're going to do a single crochet and an increase all the way around. So we're going to start with a single crochet. Then we're going to do an increase, a single crochet, an increase, single crochet, increase, single crochet, and an increase. And here we should have a total of 18 single crochets. Next, we're going to do a single crochet and an increase and a single crochet. So we're going to start with the single crochet. And an increase, and a single crochet. And this is where a lot of people could get mixed up because it's a single crochet, increase, and a single crochet. A lot of people will do increase next, but it's supposed to be a single crochet and then an increase. Then a single crochet, and then here another single crochet, then an increase, and a single crochet. And there's a single crochet, and increase, and ending in a single crochet. And here we should have 24 single crochets. And for our next row, we're going to do 3 single crochets and an increase. We're basically kind of making a ball shape because my Melody's hands are kind of like little balls. So we're going to start with 3 single crochets. There's 1. Add that stitch marker. 2, 3, then an increase. We're going to keep doing this, making 3 single crochets and then an increase. Once we're finished doing this, we'll meet back for the rest of the rows. And here we're ending with an increase. We're going to move on to our next row. For the next 2 rows, we're going to do 30 single crochets all the way around. So I'm going to put a stitch marker at the beginning of each row with 30, so we should have 2 stitch markers at the end. So we're going to start with our first single crochet, add the stitch marker, and we're going to continue making these single crochets all the way around. And when we're done with our 2 rows of 30 single crochets, we'll meet back to move on. So here we're finished with our 2 rows of 30. We're going to continue to our next row. I'm going to remove the stitch markers. For our next row, we're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease. So there's 1, 2, 3 single crochets and then a decrease. So 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. 1, 2, 3, and a decrease. And a decrease. And here we should have a total of 24 single crochets. As you can see, we're getting into a ball shape. For our next row, we're going to do a single crochet, a decrease, and a single crochet. So we're going to do a single crochet, and then a decrease, and a single crochet. We're going to continue that all the way around. Single crochet, decrease, single crochet. Then we just ended with single crochet. And here we should have a total of 18 single crochets. For the next 6 rows, we're going to do 18 single crochets all the way around. So our last row was 18 single crochets, and then we're just going to keep doing the 18 single crochets for 6 more times. And then we're going to continue with these single crochets all the way around, and we should have 6 stitch markers at the end, and each will contain 18 single crochets. And then we'll meet back when we're done with all of these rows. And here we have our 6 stitch markers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're finished with our 6 rows of 18 single crochets, and we're ready to finish off our arm. So I'm going to remove all the stitch markers. Once we removed all of our stitch markers, we're going to cut enough yarn so that we can go around the edge of the row. I'm going to pull the yarn through. And here we have our darning needle, and we're going to go through the outer loop of each of our stitches, the top stitches. So that's one. I'm going to put a stitch marker there so I know when to stop. And then we're just going to go up and down through all of the stitches. And before we close it, let's stuff our arm. So here we have our stuffing. We're just going to stuff our hand first, make it kind of round because my Melody has little round hands. We're going to start stuffing the arm. That looks pretty good. A little bit too much there. Okay. Once we're satisfied with the amount of stuffing, we're going to pull our little yarn here so that it closes up. Now I'm going to straighten it out a little. And once it's closed up, we can just sew the inside. So we'll just sew it right across. And then we can just hide our yarn. We can just use the yarn to sew on our arm. And we need 2 of these arms. Thank you so much for taking the time out to watch this video. It wasn't too long. If you liked this video or found it useful, click that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell so you know when our next video is out. Have a great day.